Defacing the frauds and rewarding the deserving. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, breaking down each season's national championships in college football history. We have posted videos on the 2018 and 2017 seasons. Please check out those videos. Let us know what you think. Like, comment, and subscribe right here at the voice of college football. If you love the game that we love, college football, please subscribe right here for the best in analysis, discussion, and debate. We are now at 2016. So my intent here is not to talk about what could have been if there would have been a different bounce of the ball. I will talk about that possibly, as I will with the Clemson Tigers in 2016. Talk about maybe some narrow wins, and if something would have broken this way or that way, it could have been much different. But that's not the intent of this series. Maybe we'll do that in a future series and look at what might have been, what came that close to possibly being. In this series, we're strictly looking at the results on the field and taking them as is, but determining, okay, especially as we get from the playoff era, and this is going to be emphasized and amplified during the BCS era, and then even more so, we'll have a whole lot of fun during the poll era from 1936 through 1997. Did those teams earn the national championship, or were there other teams that deserved it just as much as they did? In the playoff era, all the national championships were earned. They were earned in the playoff, obviously, by playing two of the best teams in the country and defeating them. So all the championships in the playoff era were certainly earned by winning two very difficult games. But were there playoff spots that could have been earned by other teams? And definitely it's within question every year that those 3 and 4 spots were up for grabs and could have been given to somebody else, because they were given to the teams that played in the college football playoff. They weren't necessarily earned. It's not a NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA style objective playoff system. It's a selection process determined by a committee. So there were other teams that had just as good a qualifications as some of the teams in the playoffs. So we are basically showing you, okay, who won the national championship? Did they earn it? And again, in the case of the playoff years from 2014 through 17, yes, they earned it in the playoff. But were there teams that could have been afforded the opportunity in the playoff? In 2018 and especially in 2017, we determined that there were. In 2016, let's look at it right now. And again, I may point out, just as a fun discussion, how close these teams came to not winning a national championship. But in the playoff era especially, they all earned it. And in 2016, that, of course, would be the Clemson Tigers. But it's interesting to note that in the very first game of the season, Clemson, en route to a 14-1 season in which they lost to Pitt and James Conner and Nathan Peterman, 43-42 at home. They went 14-1 and, of course, defeated Alabama in an epic championship game, 35-31. Game number 1, they beat Troy 30-24. They could have lost that game. All right, against Louisville, back and forth, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, they won that game at home, 42-36. I distinctly recall Louisville driving down the field in the final minute. They had a 4th down and short play. They threw the ball out to the left side. I don't want to misidentify the receiver. It could have possibly been Jamari Staples. I don't remember exactly who it was, but the Louisville wide receiver did not make the best effort to fight for the first down yardage, and Clemson stopped them, and Louisville lost the game, and Clemson marched on to the ACC Championship game. But they easily could have lost that game after the red zone stop against Louisville. Then, of course, the North Carolina State game. Consider that Clemson won 24-17 in overtime. The game was tied at 17. North Carolina State had a makeable, very makeable field goal around 32 yards and missed it. So there's a difference between making a play to win a game or making a play to preserve a win. In that situation, if Clemson would have blocked the kick, let's say, versus just lucking out. And in that case, Clemson lucked out. If North Carolina State kicks that field goal, if their field goal kicker is capable, he wasn't kicking a 55-yarder. A 32-yard field goal, if he makes that field goal, Clemson does not make the playoff. Again, this is not the point of the series. It's just interesting discussion Then the Tigers won the ACC Championship game over Virginia Tech. They had a 1-2 score lead most of the game, but it did get a bit nervous. It did get a bit uncomfortable late in the game as they beat the Hokies 42-35. But Clemson, certainly at 14-1, earned a national championship with wins over Ohio State 31-0 and Alabama in the championship game 35-31. The other two playoff teams were, of course, the aforementioned Buckeyes of Ohio State, and Alabama defeated Washington. And if you see my display back here, you will see that I've got Ohio State versus Clemson and Alabama versus Washington. I should have done that for the first two videos and noticed and set up the background for the appropriate team matchups if I have them. What was a certainty here is that actually, if you have not been watching me for a few years, leading into the playoffs that year, that was my first helmet purchase, and I determined, well, I should buy the 4 playoff teams. So I purchased Alabama, Clemson, Washington, and Ohio State, and there they are. All right, let's keep in mind that Ohio State was the first non-conference champion in 2016, the third year of the playoff, to be selected to go into the playoff. So on Ohio State's side in the decision of the playoff committee over Penn State was that Ohio State had a better record, 11-1 to Penn State's 11-2, that Ohio State had better wins. They beat Oklahoma on the road. They beat Wisconsin on the road. They beat Michigan, Michigan State. They had better wins than Penn State. They had the better record, 11-1 to 11-2. Penn State had the Big Ten championship, and they also had the head-to-head win. So it was my opinion at the time, and still is, that Penn State should have been the number 4 team in the playoff, not Ohio State. So that is our first amendment to 2016, is that Clemson earned the national championship, and we are not here to make judgments on who would have won games. I believe Clemson would have beat Penn State, just like they beat Ohio State. I actually think Ohio State was better than Penn State, but I don't believe that they earned the playoff spot. Penn State earned it as the head-to-head winner and the Big Ten champion. So I'm not here to determine whether Penn State would have beaten Clemson. I'm here to make a statement for Penn State that they were robbed of the opportunity to win the national championship. Not that they would have won it. They were robbed of the opportunity to win the national championship. In the group of 5, much like Central Florida the last 2 years, this gets forgotten. PJ Fleck's final team at Western Michigan went 13-0 in the regular season, the group of 5. They could have been. They were not at the time even considered, not even talked about, like Central Florida's been the last 2 years, but Western Michigan, they only had one Power 5 win. That was against a bad Illinois team, 34-10. So they didn't have the resume. That's not my claim. I'm just taking note of an undefeated team, the only one beside Alabama, the only undefeated team in college football, Western Michigan at 13-0, who went on to the Cotton Bowl and lost to Wisconsin 24-16. So the national champion for 2016 is Clemson. Rightfully so. They earned it. Also, making a rightful claim for a national championship would have been Western Michigan, but they lost to Wisconsin. So it is Clemson and Clemson alone. And then the rightful opportunity to go to the playoff and play for a national championship would have been the Penn State Nittany Lions. That's our wrap-up for 2016 right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please smash the like button, comment, even if you disagree with me. If you enjoy what we do here in regards to analyzing college football for the smart fan, for you, please comment and subscribe to the channel. Share the videos. Get them out there, and we appreciate it. You can support Mark Rogers TV by not spending a dime in terms of your support for us. What you can do is go to any of the description sections on any of the videos, click on the Amazon links, do your Amazon shopping just by using and entering the site using any of the links on the videos. And that will help us out here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. If you want me to do this full time, then please continue to support Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We'll be back with a look at 2015.